your sister is more presentable, and she has more of a future than you. That was the moment I realized. They never chose me. They just used me until they didn't need me anymore. Stay till the end to hear how I turned that humiliation into the weapon that exposed my entire family. The sun was hot, almost performative in its brilliance, as I stood among a sea of navy gowns and gold honor cords. The dean mispronounced my last name despite me correcting it during rehearsal. I smiled anyway. I'd told myself it didn't matter. I'd told myself it would be worth it once I saw them, my family, waving from the stands, proud, maybe even crying. I imagined them holding signs, maybe even a bouquet. I was so specific in my hope it should have counted as planning. But as each name was called, and the cheers rose around me like smoke from small fires, my section remained silent. No one called out for Evelyn Carter. My phone vibrated in the folds of my robe. Not a congratulation. Not even a, "we're late." Just silence. Mom had been vague the week before. "We'll see how we feel that weekend," she'd said, her voice tight and oddly formal. "Savannah's schedule is packed too, and your father hasn't been sleeping well." I chalked it up to disinterest. That was always easier than imagining malice. I told myself they'd show up anyway, last minute. Maybe they were just bad at planning. But the lie unraveled by the time I walked across the stage. My roommate, Alana, snapped a photo of me shaking hands with the department chair. She texted me, "Proud of you. Hope the fam is going wild, Ren." I didn't answer. I didn't have the heart to lie. After the ceremony, I ducked out of the crowd of posing classmates and proud parents. I walked straight to my car in the staff lot and sat in the driver's seat with the AC blasting my face like a punishment. My cap was still pinned to my hair, and my heels throbbed like they'd been molded from spite. Only when I checked Instagram did the truth land fully. There it was. A full post from Meredith Carter, time-stamped exactly 12:14 p.m., midway through my name being called. A champagne toast? A garden party. The caption read, "She said yes. So thrilled to celebrate our Savannah and her perfect fiancé, Liam. Let the wedding journey begin." 2 heart emojis, 1 engagement ring, 0 mentions of their eldest daughter's graduation. I blinked hard, not because I was crying, but because my eyes were trying to reject the image. Savannah was beaming, her left hand held high like a trophy. Meredith looked radiant beside her, mid-toast. Peter, Dad, stood behind them, mid-clap. It was bright, joyful, and surgically timed. They were celebrating all right. Just not me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't call. I stared at the screen until it went dark. When it came back to life, I scrolled. Savannah's story was a compilation of boomerangs and reels. The ring, the venue, the charcuterie spread. Everything coordinated in pastel pinks and golds. Everything carefully curated for joy. I looked at the time again. They'd known. They hadn't forgotten. They'd just chosen. My own robe still clung to me like a joke. The sweat on my back felt like shame. I drove home with one hand on the wheel and the other gripping the edge of my seatbelt like it might keep me from unraveling. My apartment welcomed me like it always had. Quietly, indifferently. The balloons Alana had taped to the door the night before had started to droop. The Congrats E sign had lost its exclamation. Inside, I placed my diploma on the counter like it was radioactive. I stared at it until my legs ached and then sank to the floor in front of the bookshelf. My cap rolled off. My mouth tasted like metal. I didn't want vengeance. Not yet. I just wanted the math to add up. That night, I opened the gift I'd bought for myself weeks earlier. A black leather notebook. The words "The Record" were embossed in gold foil across the cover. I didn't know when I ordered it what I'd use it for. I just knew I needed a place where the truth could exist uninterrupted. I uncapped a pen and wrote the first line. May 12, erased. A message lit up my screen, interrupting the stillness. "Didn't see you tagged in the party pics. Everything okay?" Brielle Harper. Mom always said the extra card was just for emergencies. Apparently, Savannah's engagement counted as one. The apartment had been dark for hours, but I hadn't bothered turning on a single light. The only glow came from my laptop screen, bouncing off my knuckles as I scrolled through months of transaction histories and bank statements. Each click felt like peeling back a layer of my own skin. Soft at first, then raw. The E. Carter credit card had been issued when I turned 18. Mom said it was to build credit responsibly. She paid the bill usually. I only used it when she told me to. Ordering flowers for a family friend, covering gas during one of Savannah's out-of-town dance competitions. But somewhere between my FAFSA and final thesis defense, it had become something else. A backstage pass for them to spend freely in my name. I wasn't even looking for it at first. I'd logged into the old family shared folder out of some masochistic curiosity. That's when I saw it. Still labeled Wedding Planning Draft A. I hadn't been in that folder in months. I'd thought it was for mine. But the dates didn't match my timeline. The florist invoice was dated April 19th, a month after I'd called off my own event planning. The venue contract had E. Carter listed as the reserving party, but the address was Savannah's. The final blow came from the catering confirmation. Final menu selections confirmed by client Evelyn Carter. Contact phone 843-555-. My number. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't identity confusion. It was strategy. They'd used my card, my name, and let me disappear into the background noise of their celebration. The apartment felt tighter. My chest did too. I opened my online banking. The login was automatic, muscle memory. I scrolled past textbooks and groceries until a $3,200 charge to Harborview Events caught my eye, followed by $1,400 to Crescent Lighting and Design. My stomach tightened. I clicked the statement PDF button and watched the truth line up neatly. One charge after another, like little betrayals in Times New Roman. And then I remembered something. Back in March, Meredith had emailed me a document, just to keep the graduation budget in check. I'd signed it without reading. She'd phrased it like a tool to help me stay on top of senior year expenses. But now I couldn't help but wonder, what had I signed? The document wasn't in my email anymore. I tried searching keywords. Authorization, budget, Savannah. Nothing. It had been wiped. A dull ache began building in my jaw. I hadn't realized I was clenching. My phone buzzed again. Brielle. You were right to check. I saw this happen to someone else. Me. I blinked. For a second, her name didn't register. Brielle Harper. My ex-best friend. Debate team partners. Inseparable until senior year of high school, when her full ride mysteriously went to someone else. I hadn't known what to say back then. Hadn't known how to bridge the silence. But now? Now she was studying law. Her texts came fast. You still have access to the full records? Card statements? Email threads? I typed back. Some. I think they scrubbed part of it. A pause. Still enough to prove misuse. You're not overreacting, Ev. The nickname cracked something in me. Not because it was sweet, but because it reminded me who I used to be before I got good at shrinking. I copied everything. Screenshots, statements. I created a folder titled June Fire and dumped everything in, one by one. Quiet, exact. Then I went back to the wedding planning file, opened the RSVP list. There, nestled between Savannah's fiancé's coworkers and their yoga instructor, was an email address I hadn't used in 3 years. Evelyn.carter.old@. That wasn't just fraud. That was premeditation. I exhaled slowly and opened a clean Word document. The cursor blinked at me like a heartbeat. Timeline of transactions. May 3rd. Deposit paid from my card. May 4th floral confirmation with my initials. May 7 contact info listed as mine for tasting confirmation. I kept going until the list stretched 3 pages. Brielle's next message came with an attachment. Template affidavit. Don't fill it out yet. Just read. And keep saving everything. I clicked the file. The lines blurred for a second, not from tears, but from rage that had found a shape. Brielle, you need to talk to someone legal. And fast. Savannah's Instagram story. Best night of my life. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Evelyn's receipts told a different story. I hadn't planned to respond. I told myself it wasn't worth it, that staying quiet meant staying dignified. But when Savannah posted that reel, a twirling, slow-motion montage of fairy lights and champagne fountains and her doing that pageant tilt with the ring, I didn't feel defeated. I felt surgical. She'd tagged the venue, the Breyer estate, the same one Mom had once pitched to me for my own supposed wedding. I remembered the brochure. I remembered how she said, "It's too expensive unless we plan it smartly. Just sign here and we'll coordinate the rest." I'd signed. Back then, I believed in delegation as love. Now I believed in forensic accounting. I called the Breyer estate under a different name, using a voice a half octave higher. Said I was a planner, confirming client information for May 13th. The woman on the phone was polite, almost cheerful. "Oh yes," she said. "That's for Evelyn Carter, signed and secured in February. Lovely family, everything already paid, except for the final gratuity." I paused. "Could you confirm the name again?" "Sure, Evelyn Carter. You must be her assistant?" My laugh came out flat. "Something like that." I ended the call, opened the .pdf I'd exported last night, and added one more line to the timeline. Venue reservation confirmed in my name, payment drawn from card number 4013. I didn't even need to recheck the number. It was etched into the back of my skull now. Then I did something uncharacteristic. I messaged Savannah. I didn't bother with a greeting. I didn't ask how she was. I simply sent her the catering invoice, the card transaction, and a screenshot of the venue listing. Her response came back 6 minutes later. "Why are you making this about you? This was supposed to be happy. You said you didn't even want a big wedding." I stared at her words, my chest going still. My fingers moved before I could think. "Then why use my name?" She didn't reply. I didn't expect her to. That night, Brielle called. Her voice was lower than usual, the kind of steady tone people use when the anger has already crystallized. "You're not crazy," she said. "I've looked at everything you sent. This isn't just theft. It's manipulation. You were erased and then used." My throat went tight. I didn't cry. Instead, I asked, "How do I make it real?" "You already are," she said. "Next step is preparing your narrative, the version that'll stand up if this goes public or legal." "I'm not trying to humiliate them." "Good," Brielle replied, "because humiliation's temporary, proof is permanent." After we hung up, I reached into my drawer and pulled out my old journal. Inside, tucked in the back, was a USB drive I hadn't touched in years. It held backups from my college applications, essays, some photos, and one audio file I'd forgotten existed. It was a voicemail, dated August 12th, 2020. "Savannah needs this more. You'll understand someday," my mother said. Her voice was soft, almost loving. That made it worse. She continued, "Your sister is more presentable. This will secure her future and she'll take care of you later. Trust me, Evelyn, this is how we win." I hit pause. My skin went cold. "Win what?" I copied the file into the June fire folder. The last thing I did before shutting my laptop was open a blank email to meredithcarter.family@gmail.com. Subject about that emergency card. Noah once disappeared without a word. Now he calls to say my mother told him I was unstable. And he believed her. The ringtone barely had time to echo before I answered. I hadn't heard Noah's voice in 3 years, and when it came through, it carried the hesitation of someone stepping back into a room they once escaped from. "Evelyn," he said. Just my name. That old quiet steadiness still there, even now. I didn't speak. I let the silence stretch. He finally filled it. "I heard about the wedding," he said. Savannah's, and everything else. A beat passed. I thought you should know why I left. I'd told myself it didn't matter anymore, that whatever reasons he had were his to rot with. But when he said, "Your mother called me," I sat up straighter. "She told me you were overwhelmed," he said. "Said you were under emotional strain, that you needed space to focus on your future, and that I was part of the problem." He exhaled slowly, like this confession cost something. "She said if I really loved you, I'd walk away." I blinked. "And you did." "I thought I was doing the right thing," he said. "But I realize now, I was just easier to convince than you were to control." There was no warmth in my voice. "Thank you for telling me." He didn't ask for forgiveness. He knew better. After the call, I sat in the dark, phone balanced in my palm like a verdict. My walls hadn't cracked. Yet. But they shifted. Because now I could see it. A pattern stretching further back than I'd allowed myself to believe. Not just financial manipulation, not just favoritism. It was systemic control, the kind that rewrites your story mid-sentence and dares you to remember what it was before. I powered up my old laptop, the one I hadn't used since sophomore year, and opened a hidden folder labeled Holiday 2019. I dug through voicemails, screenshots, birthday photos. Not for nostalgia, for patterns, evidence. And I found it. An email chain between Meredith and a wedding planner. Subject: change of name on account, urgent. She used my email address, signed it, Best Evelyn. The attachments were PDFs, formatted exactly like my resume. Only none of it had come from me. I copied them into the June Fire folder. My digital dossier was growing. I texted Brielle. She forged planning documents. I have the originals and the fakes. Her reply came in under 10 seconds. "Good. That's fraud. Keep digging." At sunrise, I walked to the cafe down the street, the one with the sticky tables and humming fridge where no one ever asks questions. Brielle was already waiting, dressed like someone who might sue your entire family without raising her voice. I slid her a flash drive across the table. "This is everything," I said. "All the receipts, the audio, the venue forms, even Savannah's DMS." Brielle didn't touch it. "Are you ready to make it real?" "I don't want revenge," I said. "I know," she replied. "You want clarity." I nodded. We spent the next 2 hours drafting a document titled Pattern of Control, the Evelyn Carter file. It included timelines, signatures, mirrored inconsistencies. Brielle called it pre-litigation mapping. I called it a war map. Back home, I opened a backup from my Google Drive and found another bomb. A 2021 joint filing from Meredith listing me as a dependent, despite me living entirely on scholarships. She'd used it to claim tax credits, stamped, signed, digitally filed. I screenshotted each page and dragged them into a new folder. Restitution. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt aligned. She'd been dismantling me in pieces for years, financially, emotionally, reputationally. Now I was reconstructing every fracture, one file at a time. I uploaded everything to a new folder named Restitution. I didn't post it to go viral. I posted it so I'd stop feeling like a ghost in my own story. It was early. The kind of early where the light is pale and judgment-free. I sat cross-legged on the living room floor, laptop balanced on my knees, coffee gone cold on the window ledge. The cursor blinked beside my opening line. "My name is Evelyn Carter, and here's what my family didn't want you to see." I didn't dress it up. I didn't add hashtags or emotional appeals. I let the facts speak in a language they could never twist. Dates, dollars, documents. I uploaded screenshots, credit card charges, venue confirmations, planner emails signed in my name. I added the voicemail from Meredith. I added the screenshots of Savannah's story. Then I hit post, and I closed the laptop. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Once, then again, then continuously until I turned off notifications. It didn't matter. The dam had already broken. Brielle called 20 minutes in. "It's moving," she said. "People are sharing it. I counted 7 lawyers in the comments so far. 2 said you've got grounds for a civil suit." I blinked at the ceiling. "I didn't post it to sue them." "You might not have," she said, "but that's what the paper trail says." By noon, I was being tagged in videos, stitch reactions, duets, my face, my name. Out there. People reposted my receipts like they were holy text. But I didn't read the comments. I didn't need their outrage. I had my own. What I did read was a message from a girl named Harper in Milwaukee. "Your post gave me the courage to confront my mom. I found out she took out a loan in my name." That one I saved. Savannah, of course, fired back. Her story read, "Some people just can't be happy for others. That's sad. I'll pray for your healing, sis." She used a sparkle emoji. I nearly laughed. Nearly. Then Meredith posted. A Facebook update, of course. Long, eloquent, measured like she was preparing for a PR war. It's hard being a mother. You try to raise your children with compassion. But sometimes when pain twists a child's view, all they can see is betrayal where there was once love. No names, but everyone knew who it was about. The comments were exactly what I expected. "You're such a strong mom. Some kids just turn bitter no matter what you give them. You deserve peace." I didn't reply. I printed it. I highlighted the worst lines. Then I added the post, along with every like, heart, and share from Meredith's inner circle, into the restitution folder. That afternoon, my inbox pinged with a press request. Local journalist. "Would you be willing to go on record?" I deleted it. Not because I wasn't ready, but because I wasn't done. Brielle texted again. "FYI, I think we've got enough to build a public counterclaim. Let's meet." We met in a quiet back room of her campus law office. She spread the documents across the table like tarot cards. "Venue," she said, tapping one. "Catering," another. "Email forgeries," "tax fraud," "character defamation." And then she looked up. "You ready to name it?" I nodded. "File it." As I was leaving, my phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. I didn't recognize the digits, but the subject line chilled me. New message from Meredith Carter. Subject, let's talk. First from college, then from the role they scripted for me. This time, I wrote the ending. I stood backstage in a linen blouse and slacks that didn't try too hard. My name card sat neatly on the panelist table. Evelyn Carter, speaker, family systems, and financial autonomy. There were no spotlights, no paparazzi, just 60 folding chairs and a mic that buzzed faintly when tapped. It was the first time I'd been asked to speak publicly since everything broke. A student volunteer leaned in. "You're up in 2. I nodded, but my pulse didn't jump. No tremble in my hands, no second guessing. Just that quiet steel I'd been carrying for weeks now. When I stepped out, there were no flashes. Just eyes. Watching. Waiting. I took a deep breath and said, "When family is the first cage, we often spend years trying to decorate the bars instead of walking out." Not a sound, but not in a bad way. I kept going. I was told I was difficult, ungrateful, too private, too sensitive, that I wasn't cut out for confrontation. But silence isn't grace. Sometimes it's just erasure wearing pearls. By the time I sat down, a few people clapped slowly, then stronger, like they were giving themselves permission. One girl in the second row had tears in her eyes. She mouthed, "Thank you." Afterward, someone handed me a glass of water and said, "That hit harder than anything I've heard all year." I smiled, but only a little, because I wasn't there for applause. I was there because it mattered. Later that day, Brielle and I sat by the river, her laptop open, mine closed. The wind flicked the edge of her notepad like it wanted to read what we were planning. Legal daughters. she said, tapping the logo we'd just sketched. A place for women who feel like they can't prove what they survived. I nodded. We won't fix them, but we'll help them name it. That's the first cut. She leaned back. You know, this us, it's the thing your mom could never control. At home that night, I found a thin envelope on my doormat. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check, $31,320. The memo line read, reimbursement. No contact. I stared at it, not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. Because someone who once claimed everything I had wasn't enough now paid exactly what they'd stolen, down to the dollar. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I framed it. I hung it above my desk with a brass plate underneath. Proof it happened. The following Friday, I opened my email and saw a message from Harper, the same girl who'd messaged me after my post went viral. If you ever build something from this, I want in. I looked out at the ducks gliding across the river. The world felt still, not empty. I opened a blank document, typed the first sentence of our mission statement. Freedom isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the sound of no one calling you back. Meredith's email sat unread in my inbox for 5 days. It was short. 4 words. Let's talk, just us. No greeting, no explanation. A thread of bait without a hook. I didn't answer. I didn't block her either. I wasn't afraid of her voice anymore. I just no longer needed it. But silence was its own kind of message. And silence from me was something Meredith had never tolerated for long. On the 6th day, a letter came. Handwritten. Thick cream paper, expensive ink. Delivered by courier, not mail. Not a text, not an email. Something old-fashioned to remind me of her standards. Inside was just a single folded sheet, her signature at the bottom like a flourish meant to dominate the page. I'm sorry you felt hurt. I'm sorry you misinterpreted our intentions, but a family shouldn't be dismantled over paperwork and perspective. I read it once, then again, then tore it in half. This wasn't an apology. It was a performance of regret without any of its weight. Meredith wasn't grieving the harm she'd done. She was grieving the loss of control, that I wouldn't crawl back, that I no longer wanted a seat at their table. The next day, Peter showed up at my door. He knocked twice. Not like someone returning home, but like a man uncertain whether the door would even open. I stood behind the peephole longer than I should have, debating whether to pretend I wasn't there. But I opened it. He looked thinner, his hair grayer. His face, for once, didn't carry Meredith's script. Can I just talk? He asked. I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside. He didn't sit. He hovered, looking at the walls, the check in the frame, the clean counters. I saw the post, he said. I saw everything. I said nothing. I didn't know, he added quickly. Not all of it. I knew about the card, yes. But the planner thing? The taxes? Meredith said it was temporary, that you'd understand. I almost laughed. Not from amusement, just from the ridiculousness of hearing it out loud from the man who let it happen. Why are you here, Peter? I asked. No longer calling him Dad wasn't a decision. It was a fact that had quietly taken shape and settled into place. He finally met my eyes. Because I think I failed you, and I don't know how to fix it. There was a time that sentence would have shattered me. Now, it barely registered. You didn't just fail me, I said calmly. You erased me. You funded a version of life where I didn't exist, and then signed the checks to prove it. He nodded, slowly, like someone taking his own inventory for the first time. You're not coming back, are you? I shook my head. No. He left quietly. No hug, no promise. Just a nod and the sound of his footsteps on the tile as the door clicked behind him. That was the last time I saw him. 2 weeks passed. The check remained in its frame. The silence from my family stretched like fabric drying in the wind. Fragile, pulled thin. I didn't hear from Savannah. I assumed she was still planning her pastel wedding, though I suspected vendors were now requiring cash up front. The momentum from the post had settled, but the impact hadn't faded. Every few days, someone new would email or message me, sometimes quietly, sometimes trembling with their own fury. And then came a letter. This one, not from Meredith. It was from a lawyer in Charleston. Formal tone. Gold-embossed logo. Per the dissolution of familial fiduciary obligations, the Monroe Carter Family Trust has been amended. You are no longer a signatory, beneficiary, or liability. They weren't just cutting me off. They were making it official. At the bottom of the letter was one line. As of now, Evelyn Carter is no longer recognized as a legal dependent or heir to the Monroe Carter estate. I set the letter on the kitchen counter next to my tea, and I exhaled. Because it wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. They'd put in writing what I'd already known. I didn't belong to them anymore. And for the first time in my life, that didn't mean I was alone. It meant I was free. At the next legal daughters planning meeting, Brielle pulled out a copy of the letter. "We could make this part of our materials," she said. "How financial exile is used to control adult children." I nodded. "Call it what it is. Inheritance as leverage, love with strings, and silence as condition." We made it a case study. Evelyn Carter. Removed, erased, resolved. Brielle looked at me as we wrapped up. "You okay?" I paused, then smiled, not performatively, just a quiet nod to my own reflection. "Yeah," I said. "Better than okay." That night, I lit a single candle on my balcony, not for ceremony, just to mark time. The wind was gentle, the stars steady. No one called, no one texted, no one showed up. And I realized that was the most peaceful thing I'd ever known. They erased her name, rewrote her story, and called it family. But the truth, once uncovered and named, refused to be buried again. Justice didn't arrive in a courtroom or apology. It arrived in clarity, in the freedom of no longer needing permission to exist. When silence is broken by facts, even the most polished lies begin to rot. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more truths that deserve to be heard.